Hello, Assalamu alaikum, and a very warm welcome to all my graceful audience. This is Rahmat Empowerment Wala presenting you your favorite podcast, Empowering Minds. The concept behind Empowering Minds is to call upon such prestigious guests who haven't just explored their own mindset, but are trying to empower other minds too. So, to serve the purpose, we have with us today Noor Haseeb Saab, who's from Gujar Khan, and he's also a podcaster, and which I really passionate about, which is podcasting. I really love that, and I really like when some other my guest is also a podcaster. So that excites me very much. That brings the curiosity out of me to ask more and more questions to my guest. So today is going to be one of the day. So he's a founder and director of English Club Malaysia also. So let's jump towards our guest and listen from him and to know more about him. I would love to ask about his introduction from his own words. So let's welcome Assalamu alaikum Nurul Haseeb Saab.
Walaikum Salam, Rahman bhai. Thank you so much for such a warm welcome. You have been so kind and generous. And it's English Club Malaysia, the way you presented to the audience, it was basically a language academy 5 years ago, and which inspired me to go to transform it into a YouTube channel. So this all happened when I was in one of the schools. I was teaching English language as a spoken English instructor, and podcasting was something that came out of monologues. I was trying to create monologue videos on the YouTube, trying to teach students how to speak English better, trying to teach students how to improve their confidence and spoken skills. And I figured out why not me just giving lectures on the videos? How about collaborating with others who are teaching on various levels, let's say academies, institutions, online. So I started collaborating. So podcast was something that came out of that. And then now I see after 4 years of podcasting, I see that everybody is doing podcasts, and which is really exciting to me. I thought that it was a very difficult skill, but it's not. It seems that younger generation is even doing it better than me. So which is very inspiring, because obviously it's a digital age, right? And I only got to know telephones and phones and internet, let's say a decade ago, but they know about it when they are only 17 or 15, right? And so that makes a lot of difference.
Definitely. And in Rehan school system, podcasting or interviewing is a basic tool we teach to our students to use. And this tool really helps them learn how to communicate, how to collaborate, and how to learn other languages other than their native language. So this tool is really exciting, and human connectivity, human networking, which we are also teaching our in our school system, Rehan school system. Also this tool really helps to you know um, teach them or to practice them. So this amazing tool has been introduced us by Sir Rehan Allahwala, and I think we all are using it very effectively. So you talked about that everyone is doing podcast nowadays, and I also have experienced this, and I also have sensed this that all muftis are doing, comedians are doing this, and cricketers are doing this. So what do you think? Why everyone doctors are doing this also? So why do you think that everyone is doing podcasting? Other than what they have, their profession is some kind of different, but they are also doing podcasting. Why they are doing this? What do you think?
Well, I think I can relate one of my stories to answer your question. I interviewed some people on my podcast in the beginning. First 10 videos of my podcast were with people whom I knew or who knew me, but I never spoke to them. I knew them. I handshake them whenever I saw them. They were very famous people in my locality. But unless I took a decision to interview them or bring them on my podcast, I never actually chat with them. I never actually had a chat with them. So doing podcast gave me a reason to actually sit with them to get to know them. So I think that podcast is I think a tool. Just like if you if let's say if we go back 20 years, we didn't have a mobile phone and we didn't have any reason to talk to anyone, so we never went to somebody. So, but now we have a mobile phone. We just think of somebody and we give them a call, right? Because we have a tool. So similarly, podcast gives us a reason to actually sit down with somebody and learn from them and share your experiences with them. So I think it's a great way to actually collaborate, to meet people, to talk to people, and to be honest, to move forward in life, whether in whichever career you are, you have to get out of your home to do something in life. You have to meet people, you have to talk to people. You cannot develop something on your own. You cannot build something on your own. You have to connect with people. After all, we are living in an economic society. We are social human beings, right? So unless we socialize, we cannot grow. So I think podcast gives us an opportunity to socialize. And for somebody who is not, I think my daughter is only 11 right now, and she's very shy because she's a single child. So I can relate. If she, I asked her to interview me because she was very shy. So I prepared a questionnaire for her so that she can have some confidence to be on the camera because before that she wasn't. So I prepared a questionnaire for her. I said that you don't have to do anything, you just have to read the paper and look at me and I'll answer the question. So I wanted to like give her confidence that you can do it, right? And she actually did it. And I was so surprised because she did it just the way I do it, because she used to listen to me a lot. So I think that this is one of the tools and mediums to give confidence because unless you talk to people, now I have done 135 videos on YouTube. When I was doing my first video, I was shivering, I was shaking. How would I do it? I had to take like I think 100 takes or 50 takes for that one video. But now I just simply record it and upload it. So that comes with time. That comes with practice. So I think that you have to make a decision. You have to, I think, pick up the phone and start recording if you want to become a podcaster, if you want to become a vlogger. I never thought of vlogging. Nobody taught me how to vlog. I just used to see vlogs. So what I did is I was skating one day. I bought skates few years back, 2 or 3 years back, because I wanted to teach my kid how to skate because I was a skater as a child. So I thought, why not teaching my kid how to skate? So during teaching her, I thought, how about because I saw so many people doing vlogs, skate vlogs. So I thought, why can't I do it? I just started recording it and I uploaded my first skate vlog, and it went successful. I got even more like appreciation from my audience than I got on my podcast. Maybe I was meant to do only vlogs, right? So you never know that what you are good at unless you try it, unless you actually bring it to the world, right?
Definitely, you are very right that we get the experience while doing something. So that is one way of learning something, that you have to do it. So my question was that why everyone else is doing podcasting? Why do you think they are doing podcast? Like they are muftis, but they are doing podcasting. They are e-commerce experts. They are doing podcasting on the sideline. So why do you think this trend is is in trending?
I think everybody has his own reasons. You, if you know your purpose, why are you doing something? What you want to achieve out of it? Let's say you are a brand, right? And you have started a podcast, and during the podcast, you are pitching your brand, you are tagging your brand, just because you want to have a video on the camera, because you can have your product tag. So that can be one of the reasons. To me, the reason was I wanted to connect with people. I wanted to, let's say, I went to Dubai and I came back to Pakistan and I lost connection because I stayed disconnected with a lot of people. So doing podcast gave me a chance to reconcile with the people who I knew back in Pakistan. So everybody might have their own reasons. If a Mufti is doing podcast, I think he if he's doing it, he's doing a good thing because let's say 20 years ago there were no podcasts, there were no YouTube, there was no YouTube. So what he was saying, only the people who were sitting in his presence, in the premises he was speaking in, only they were able to listen to him or his message. But now if he is doing podcasts, he is doing lives, now a whole world's audience can listen to his and learn from it and compare his knowledge with other muftis. So I think it's good as an audience for me if a mufti is doing podcast. So I think that more people should come on the camera, more people should come on social media, more people should do lives. This gives us a chance to evaluate them who is better. Otherwise, how would you know? Maybe you used to listen to one mufti for 10 years and you never listen to another mufti because there was no other source. There was only one mufti in your surrounding. But now you have a chance to listen to so many because you have YouTube, you have social media. So I think it gives you a chance to compare who is better for you.
Wonderful answer. So, Nurul Hasib Sab, what do you think? When did you realize that you have that knack and you have the abilities to for podcasting, and how one can realize that he or she has this ability to become a podcaster?
Well, this is kind of a tricky question. I see podcasts a lot of podcasts, and to be honest, I personally follow a lot of channels which are basically British and Americans, and which are basically a source of my inspiration. Because let me give you an example. I saw one podcast. His channel's name is London Rear, and
Okay.
he's basically an engineer. He's he's some engineer. I'm not sure what field he's engineer at, but he quit his job and he started podcasting. And the only reason why he quit his job, he's in London. He wanted to interview all the controversial people of UK, all the controversial people who are in media in the UK. So he started doing that, and he's so successful because of that. And he got criticized a lot, right? And now he ran for mayor of London as well. But although he lost, but he became that popular because of that. So podcast can give you popularity as well, but it's not easy to be honest to do podcast unless you are really motivated. Or on a very light note, you should have the right skills. So I can on some level I can say I had some skills because of the job that I did in Dubai. I used to be a CSR, a customer service representative for a bank in Dubai, and my job was to talk to clients who had millions and millions of dirhams lying in the bank. So they used to call me and I used to pick up the phone. So unless I'm humble and polite to them, they are not going to listen to me because they are rich Arabs, right? They are not just English people, they are Arabs. So I learned courtesy over the phone back in Dubai. So that gave me a sort of the foundation of how to be courteous and polite during a conversation. So that helped me being even more politer during the interviews. I became friends with one of my school colleagues who used to teach English in school in one of the schools that I used to teach spoken English in. Before I'm talking about before podcasting, and he said that Noor, whenever you ask me a question, I never mind answering you. Why is that? I am a journalist as well, but I never mind answering you a question because the way you ask a question, it never hurts me. So he became friend only because I was a polite questioner, right? So so I think you have to have that politeness and humbleness in you to be a podcaster, to be a good podcaster. And let me tell you have done more podcasts than me, so I cannot brag here. But so far, it never happened that I started a podcast and in the middle of the podcast, somebody said, or my guest said that I don't like the way you are questioning, or I don't like your tone, or I didn't like your question, so I'm giving up on the podcast. Nobody quit on me during the podcast. So I'm not giving myself credit. I'm giving credit to the training that I had received back in Dubai. That training was called soft skills. So you have to be soft with the people you speak with.
Alhamdulillah, that hasn't happened with me also. That nobody has talked to me and said to me that your questions and you are very rude, your questions are very rude, and we are leaving your podcast. Alhamdulillah, that hasn't happened with me also. So the thing you said, that sugar coated truth or sugar coated question, asking how to ask a question, a better question, in a sugar coated way. So that is very important. Also, there should be in a podcast how to ask a tough question in a very polite way, in a very good manner, in very kind words, I would say. So that is also a quality of a good podcaster. So, according to you, Nur Haseeb Saab, what are the ingredients of a good podcast?
I think the main ingredient is questions, right? If you are asking questions, let's say I'm a podcaster and you are asking me questions about things that maybe I cannot relate to, right? So that can be purposeless. I can still answer them because that might be relevant to my life, but you should be focused enough to prepare your questionnaire. I, if you ask me, Noor, did you ever did a podcast like spontaneously? Never. I always do my homework. Whenever there is a podcast, you have to do your homework about your guest. You have to know who you are going to speak with. You have to know his background. You have to know what level he is at right now. Is he famous? Is he does he like to talk like in a prestigious manner? What kind of person he is? You should listen to his previous interviews. You should know him. You should know, like, is he doing a podcast just because of you, or is he somebody who is already a social media personality? So that makes a lot of difference. Let's say if I were to interview somebody who is locally very famous but who has never been on an interview before. I interviewed an SHO of Gujar Khan. He is very powerful in Gujar Khan, but he has never done an English interview before. But I interviewed Rehan Bhai, right? He's not an SHO, but he's a very famous person. He has a social media power. So that makes a lot of difference. I have to tailor my questions accordingly to the person I'm going to ask questions with, right? So you have to be very careful what kind of questions you make. And at the same time, questions are nothing if you don't know how to ask them. It's not about what, it's about how. If you don't know how to communicate with the person, if you don't know how to understand the person who is speaking to you, if somebody is giving you an answer, I remember, I'm not, obviously nobody is perfect, right? I did some of the podcasts and I received comments in the YouTube section, comment section, that you should have asked this question after this answer of the guest. So obviously, audience is also able to relate. I feel very happy that at least somebody is thinking that much because of my podcast. That this question should have been asked after this question. Although I did all of my best homework, but you should be able to good enough to prompt the answer. If somebody gave you an answer, you should not simply switch to the next question that you have prepared for him in the questionnaire. You should be able to prompt him based on depending on what kind of audience is going to listen to the podcast, right? So you should be very attentive in the podcast.
Definitely. But Sir Rehan is a very different personality. He really likes things spontaneously. He really, tells us that do this thing right now and come on, interview me right now, right at this moment. I won't have time for this some other time. So come on right now. So how about you interview Sir Rehan after this?
Well, Rehmat bhai, I have already, let's say a month ago, I proposed Rehan bhai to be on my channel, and
Okay.
Rehan bhai said that send me a list of 5 questions that you're going to ask me, and I sent him. And Rehan bhai said, "How about you resend me another 5 questions?" Then I did send him another 5 questions, and after that, Rehan bhai said that, "Okay, watch these 10 links or 5 things that I'm going to send you, and prepare a questionnaire after that." So I did send him those questions, 5 questions about a week ago, and he said that these are good. Now we are going to do the podcast. But till now we haven't been able to schedule this. But hopefully after this podcast, Rehan bhai, when he will see that Rehan bhai is already on my podcast, that he's going to agree to do this one with me, inshallah.
There's an open invitation from Sir Rehan. He doesn't do this often, so there's a very good chance, and you are very lucky, I guess.
Sure, sure. I'll be honored. I'll be honored.
Okay. So my next question would be that how to pursue guests, like no, many are not just like Sir Rehan Allahwala that he has invited himself and he has given you the chance to interview him. So many guests, we have to do a lot of work. We have to do so much messaging and so much pursuance. So, according to you, what's the best way to pursue a guest for podcast?
I think I have to quote Rehan bhai once again because the reason why I'm quoting him is because he could have accepted the first 5 questions that I sent him, but he gave me a chance to understand him even more. So now when I'm going to interview him, it will be much a much better podcast than what would I have done a month ago, right?
Definitely.
So what you can do is I my purpose of podcasting was I was an English instructor and I wanted to collaborate with other English instructors in the locality first. That was my purpose because I was doing monologues on the YouTube and I wanted to figure out a way how my YouTube channel can be much more comprehensive than just me giving monologues because those were just my techniques and they are good because I was able to benefit from them. I was able to learn English from those techniques that I was sharing on the YouTube. But perhaps they are not good enough for everybody because everybody had different backgrounds. Not everybody had the same upbringing that I had. So my purpose was to bring other English tutors or English teachers or professors on the channel who can share their strategies and techniques on the same channel where my audience is. So I approached them. I approached some of the professors in the locality. I told them that I've started this YouTube channel and I need your collaboration because there is nobody else doing same kind of stuff in Gujar in this locality. So how about we do the initiative? And they agreed. So you should be able to explain the narrative why you're doing something. If you should be able to have a cause for what you're doing. You should Blogging is something else. There are a lot of YouTubers who are approaching different shopkeepers, businessmen, hotels, restaurant companies, and they are just saying that okay, we are doing a vlog. How about you come on our vlog and you will get you views? That's different because that's spontaneous and you are just doing a road show. That's not podcast. Podcast is you are doing a meaningful conversation. You are having a meaningful conversation with somebody on your channel or on your video for let's say 10 minutes to up to 1 hour, and that's not easy. You cannot simply sit with somebody and look at his face and listen to him speak. You have to have your homework. You have to have a reason or a cause why you're doing this. So now, if me and you are sitting here, you when I approached you or you approached me, we had a cause that we both had an audience who listen to our podcast. And how about we come together and share our strategy? So this was my thought behind agreeing to do this within myself, in my head. I wanted to do this podcast because even you pitched me or I pitched me, that doesn't matter. I thought in my mind, I had this thought that maybe this will benefit my audience to learn the thought process about doing a podcast. So the good thing is you are asking similar questions that could be beneficial to your audience as well as my audience. So you have to have a purpose, you have to have a cause, you have to have a narrative. So when you pick somebody to do a podcast, you should be able to explain your reason, your cause, and definitely they are going to agree with you.
Definitely. Thank you so much for this wonderful answer. One question which I've been asked for a lot of times, because I have been doing this for last 11 months and 200 plus podcasts I have also done. So, how to turn this passion into financial benefits? So, my question also from you is the same, that how to turn this passion into financially beneficial for me or for you, or for everyone who's doing this. How to earn livelihood from this? What would you suggest?
Well, there are different ways, obviously. If you are on YouTube, so one way is to monetize the channel. And to monetize it, YouTube needs viewership. So if you are producing enough content or you are able to generate enough views out of your videos, then your channel gets monetized. That's one way. And that also depends. Now, when it comes to viewership, it depends on the language that you're using. I started doing podcasts in English language, and nobody else was doing it in Gujar. All the channels in Gujar were in Urdu or in local language, Punjabi or Gujarati. So everybody first object. Whenever I approached somebody to come on my channel, they said that we are happy to come on your channel, but how about doing it in Urdu? Because because they asked you one question: do you want the video to be watched or just uploaded? So at that time, I couldn't say Urdu because, frankly speaking, I agreed to do one time in Urdu in Bahria town with a real estate guy, and I realized during that session that it took me twice of the time what I could have done that session. And when I heard that interview, that recorded podcast, I wasn't satisfied with that because he, I felt during that session, I felt like if it wasn't for the guest, because he wanted me to do that podcast in Urdu, if it wasn't for him, if I had approached him in Urdu, he wouldn't have done it for me because I wasn't professional enough. So you have to know your skill set first. So now when I'm doing it in English, there is not enough audience for YouTube to monetize my channel. I have For that I have to do more podcasts. Let's say I'm doing two podcasts a month. If I do 20 podcasts a month, based on my viewership, I can monetize my channel, to be honest. But that is not my goal, frankly speaking. My goal is to do the way that I can do, or the way my viewership can benefit from it. Because if I just want to make money out of YouTube, if I start doing it in Urdu, just doing random videos for the viewership, because I already have subscribers, if I follow that track, I will lose my purpose. I will lose my narrative. And I honestly, frankly speaking, Rahmat bhai, I don't even have that skill set. If me and you start having Urdu conversation, maybe you will say that Noor bhai, forget about the podcast, we just be friends. Because you have to have certain professionalism in your verbal skill set, right? To be able to speak with a larger audience, right? So that large number of people can relate to it, not just one person. And another way of, you also probably know this, that you start bringing advertisers on your channel or on your whatever the platform that you're using. Because let's say you have good number of following right now. Let's say you have 1,000 subscribers or 10,000 subscribers. You reach out a famous brand in the locality and you tell them that I have good viewership on my channel. How about you um, finance one of my podcasts, let's say, and I will tag your brand during the video. So that's one way. So there are different ways. Obviously, you can make video, but one of the main, if you're on YouTube, one of the main ways to monetize the channel.
Thank you so much, Noor Haseeb Saab, for wonderful answer. Um, but I have been doing this for last 11 months. But on YouTube, my all interviews are on my YouTube channel also. And but I have gained 88 subscribers, and my watch time is not 100 hours. Still not reached 100 hours. So I'm a bit, thinking. I'm thinking. I've been thinking that how can I, build that kind of audience who would come on my channel every time when I upload a podcast there or live session there. So, what can I do about it to gain more subscribers and gain more watch time? because I think one reason is that my podcasts are mostly on education, and mostly is for education purpose. So that would be the reason, because our audience like to have, that entertainment stuff, that's sensational stuff. So my podcasts are more on educational stuff and giving and transferring knowledge. So maybe that's the reason that I think my watch time is not very much. What do you think? What do you have to say about it?
I'm not an expert, to be honest, to be frank about this, because there are channels which have millions and millions of subscribers. I only have, let's say, 8,000 subscribers. But all I can say is, I get views when I share the video with the audience of the guest. So, for example, I was doing monologues 3 years ago. So that was only my audience. There was no second person on the video. It was just me. So when I'm bringing another person on the video, that means that this is not just my video. This is half mine and half his, right? So this video technically deserves to be shared with his audience as much as it deserves to be shared with my audience. So that, for example, let me give you an example of one of your students who interviewed me prior to you. He
Okay.
interviewed me, yeah, he interviewed me and he tagged me in the video and he shared his that video on his own platform. So let's say if I were at his place, if I was interviewing him, what I would have done after interviewing him, what I would have done, I would have recorded the video and shared the link on with all of you, at least on his Facebook profile, on at least on his social media profile, so that his audience can know that he has done a podcast to somebody, right? So rather than me just sharing the video with my audience, now for example, if I just share this podcast, let's say I was interviewer and you were the guest, and after the video is done, and I share this podcast with just my audience, and nobody from your circle knows that Rahmat Bhai has done a video today. So I'm supposed to share it with my audience as well as your audience. I should be I should take a minute out to share that link on your social media platform, or at least I should message you the link of the video so that you can share it to on your platforms. So this is a good way. So because obviously, unless you say it, unless you market it, because you have to be able to utter it. If you do not share it, nobody would know it.
So if I'm getting it correctly, correct me if I'm wrong or no, right. So if after this podcast, when you share this video to your audience, my audience would become 8,088. Is that what you're saying?
I am saying that if you go to the very first 10 videos of my YouTube channel, there are only 100 views on those videos because it was only me in the video. And because after that I started doing podcasts, I brought many of the famous people in my locality, although they were not famous on YouTube, but they were famous in their locality because of their work that they are doing in the society. So when I did their podcast, I shared that video on my platform as well as I shared the link on their Facebook profiles so that their audience or their friends can also know that they have done a video, they have done a podcast. So that 100 views can become 200 because of sharing on two profiles, right? So you have to take the time out to share the video on different people's platforms. For example, if I don't share the video on your platform, or if you don't share this podcast on my platform, how would my audience know that Rahmat Bhai has interviewed me?
Definitely.
Yeah,
So sharing is caring here. What you are saying.
100%, 100%. See, right now you have been kind enough to bring me on your channel or podcast on your live. This was the 90% of the world. Only 10% of the world is sharing the link. That why can't you do that? I think you should have those extra 10 minutes spare. You should have that. That is part of the podcasting. I think.
Definitely, definitely it is. Okay, Noor Asif Saab, how can podcasting contribute into a betterment of society? How can we create something better out of it towards the society?
Well, frankly speaking, let's say, let me give you some of my examples or tell you a story. I used
Sure.
to run a spoken English academy,
Okay.
and in that academy, I ran that academy for 6 months. And during the whole 6 month session, I was able to enroll only 40 students,
Okay.
right? And after that, I became part of a school where I taught English spoken for 3 or 4 months, and 400 students were under my surveillance. And I was going to class, giving them spoken English lectures to help them improve spoken English. So 40 students plus 400 students, 440 students. That's on one side. Now I'm doing podcasting and YouTubing and blogging, and you can see my viewership. On my one video, there are few videos where the views are over 3,000 and 5,000 and 4,000. There is an interview with Professor Ahmed Akhtar, and I see that that video is getting 10 views, 20 views per day without me having to share the video. So
Wow.
you can see that whoever is watching it is benefit from it, right? It's not Professor Rafiq or me watching that same video every day. It's other random people, right? So that's benefit to society. Whoever watches it will definitely learn from it. And whenever I meet somebody in the I mean, when I'm on the street, they tell me when I'm attending a wedding, they tell me that we have watched that video, and what a great podcast that was. So when you get such comments, so means that you can that's a compliment to you that we have done something good for the society because somebody was able to take a time out and watch your podcast. That's I think a good feeling for you.
Definitely. And Laura May Jones has been very kind to me, very generous to me. She has given me time to interview her, and she's really connected to me since then. And she admires my work on my Facebook, and she always very generous to give likes and comments. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Laura. You are always so generous. I love connecting and collaborating with our global owner. Definitely, this is the thing I love very well in my life too. So thank you so much for watching and your commenting. Thank you so much. Nurul Haseeb saw one question. What one problem you think really hurts you when you see it in your surroundings? And what role do you think you can play to solve that problem?
A lot of people, after watching my video, they ask me one question: Why are you doing it in English language? And then I answer them that I used to be in that sector or field or industry where a lot of people are trying to help students or individuals who are struggling with spoken English, because not everybody had a background where their families can help them communicate in English, where they not everybody had that kind of schooling, not everybody was schooled in English language. So having that background of spoken English academy and being an English instructor, I feel that if if I continue to do these podcasts, maybe I should be able to solve that problem. Many people ask me a question, we cannot speak English. Let me give you an example of a student. He he enrolled in my academy. He was a LLB professional. He was a lawyer. He was a practicing lawyer in Gujar, and he came to my institute. He said that, can you help me speak English? I said, what's your qualification? He said that I'm practicing lawyer. And I asked him question that, did you study law in English or Urdu? He said in English. Then I asked him a question. I said, why can't you speak English then? He said, because all of my surrounding, all of my friends, everybody speak in Punjabi. And how can I practice speaking English? So I said that, okay, do one thing. Sit with me for, let's say, 1 or 2 months. He said, how much for 2 months? He paid me the advance for 2 months the very first day. And he sat with me. I said that, forget about right or wrong. Just speak to me. Whatever you think about yourself, whatever Tell me your stories. What are you doing in your life? What are you doing in your work, in your job? What's happening? So he started sharing his stories, and I ignored all of his grammatical mistakes because that was the only thing that was stopping him to speak English. He was paying overly attention on his grammar. So I made him realize that grammar is secondary when it comes to language and spoken English. So then he did that, and after 2 months, he was confident enough to talk to me for at least 30 minutes to 1 hour sitting next to me in English. So I think that doing podcasts in English and doing videos in English in a city like Gujar where nobody else is doing it, it sets an example for other YouTubers, other podcasters that you should also do it because if only if there are more people doing it, more people can learn from it. So I think that's one problem that I'm trying to solve. Spoken English. A lot of people are doing courses after courses after courses, but they are still not able to communicate in English in a society like Gujar because when you go on the street, you have to speak Punjabi. When you have to do grocery shopping, the shopkeeper is going to speak Punjabi. He's not even speaking in Urdu. So how would you learn English? So you have to come up with ways. You have to come up with strategies and figure out. You have to find out people to speak in English with. So doing podcast actually gave me a reason to speak more English than I was speaking in the past. Because this way I'm doing podcasts in English. So I'm spending more time speaking in English. If I was not doing podcasts, I was doing something else that would have never given me a chance to speak in English. So I think me as a podcaster and as an ex-English instructor is trying to solve that problem. So that depends. Whatever your medium is, whatever your background is, right? So you can also relate this particular thing with your own. Why are you doing podcast? You can find your this answer from your own reason, right?
Definitely, I do because I love podcasting. This is my passion, and I really like to connect to people from all over the world. This is one of my hobbies also. So I really like to expand my connection through this podcasting, and I really like that. And one thing you really mentioned really accurately, and I also believe that in today's world we are living in a global village, and this global village has its language which is called English. So we all need to learn this language, how to speak it, how to write it, how to read it. So if you want to be a good citizen of this global village, you need to understand and learn and speak its language. And I think the best way to learn a language is to put that person in an environment where the last resort for him or her is to speak that language. So human instinct is like that. When human instincts feel that this is the last resort, it tries more and more, even beyond your expectations, beyond you think that was my limit. So human instinct works beyond that. So that way I think the learning is very fast. And I think and we have seen people learn English very very fast if the last resort would be to learn that certain language.
Indeed, indeed. I mean, I didn't. I realized this one very fast when I went to Dubai and I was looking for a job. I'm talking about the first 15 days of me going to Dubai and looking for a job. I didn't secure a job before leaving Pakistan. And there were so many Pakistanis on that plane who were trying to secure a job, who were going to Dubai to secure a job. And we stayed in touch. Whoever was on that flight, who was from Pakistan, we became friends during the flight because we were like meeting with each other on the airport. And after 3 months, the very friend who was sitting next to me on that airplane, who used to work in Pakistan 7 years for a bank, he couldn't secure a job after 3 months because he didn't have English practice. He used to speak Urdu while working for a bank in Pakistan. He worked as a relationship manager for 7 years in Pakistan. But when he went to Dubai, after 3 months of struggle, he couldn't secure a job because all the interviews were in English because that's an international market. Nobody is going to interview you in an international market or in an international company in Urdu language, whatever the degree you have. So you have to have that skill verbal skill to communicate your knowledge or degree verbally. You have to be able to communicate that. Unless you are not able to communicate that, that has no meaning. That degree has no meaning, right? So
Yep.
I saw so many BCom individuals in Dubai who are working as a security guard because they couldn't secure a job that was of their own caliber because they couldn't take up the interview in English. So that's one factor that we Pakistanis lack. We think that having a degree is enough, but we forget that we studied that degree in English. So unless we can speak that degree in English language, no one can notice that we are even educated. Can I quote a story?
Sure.
I became friends. I became friends with one of the college owners in Gujar, and he told me a story that he was sitting with one of his friends in a hospital. He was a doctor, and he had a patient, and that patient, after the doctor checked up the patient, after doctor did his checkup, and the patient was about to leave, that college owner asked the patient a question, "Beta, son, how much time did you spend in school? Are you educated? What's your qualification?" And that patient said that I'm an MA English. And the way he was sitting in front of the doctor, the the college professor or the college owner thought that maybe he's an uneducated guy, but actually he was an MA English person because he was not able to portray that MA English skills. The way he was talking was so like rural. He was acting like a villager. He was not able to present his MA English in his verbally. He was speaking Punjabi or whatever the language. So the thing is that we all think that having education, having qualifications is good enough. No, you should be able to have good communication skills as well to be able to move forward in life.
So the education should be resonating through your behavior, through your attire, through your appearance also. Nursa, we cannot hear you. Nursa, we cannot hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, Ramit, I can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. I stopped hearing you, so I thought that there will be some problem. Can you hear me?
Ji, Rahmat bhai, I can hear you.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Noor Saab, because you have given me approximately 50 minutes. Last question to you. What lessons did you learn in your 20s which you would like to, transfer to the younger generation that they have learned from you? The lesson learned in your 20s.
20s. I think that connecting with people, you mentioned a very beautiful thing that you are doing podcasts because you want to connect with the world. And me traveling to Dubai, me traveling to Malaysia gave it's not just about leaving Pakistan. It's not that I'm anti-Pakistan, which is why I left Pakistan. I started feeling close to Pakistan even more after going outside of Pakistan. So
Okay.
I learned that you should, if you have this amazing opportunity like social media in your mobile phone, everybody has that, has a smartphone, everybody has a Facebook account. Don't just keep it for less for to have an account only. You should learn to connect with people. You should reach out to people. You should talk to them. Ignore the fact that you don't know their culture, ignore the fact that you don't know their language. Everybody knows English. Pakistan is not that illiterate that we can't even speak English, we can't even write English. Talk to people, speak to them, be friends with be not don't just have friends in Pakistan, have friends globally. This will really boost your personality. This will shape your personality in the ways you can't even imagine.
Definitely. That's what Sir Rehan Allahwala's basic teachings are, that connect with the world, connect with the friends Sir Rehan Allahwala has in his friend list, connect with them. There's a course which, course number one, the name of the course is course number one, which is the basic course of Sir Rehan Allahwala. If you want to be his student, you need to finish that course, which is course number one, and you can find on rehantrainings.com also that which the very basic step of that course number one is to friend Sir Rehan Allahwala's mutual friends, send request to Sir Rehan Allahwala's mutual friends, and you have to have 500 mutual friends with Sir Rehan Allahwala. That is the basic step. If you do not complete that step, you won't gonna get that completion certificate. So I've done also, and many students of Sarihan and Lawala has done this, and it changes your life at 360 degrees, I would say, because you get to connect it with so many, generous people, so people from all around the world, different perspectives, watch things, different perspective about Pakistan. When you are in Pakistan, you think only about Pakistan. Pakistan is very good. All the things are very good, but when you see the things from others' perspectives who are not in Pakistan, they think they see Pakistan with a different perspective. So you get to know that perspective by connecting with them. So this is one basic teaching of Sarihan, that you have to connect with people from all over the world. So thank you so much, Nurul Haseeb Saab, for that wonderful podcast. I really enjoyed it, and you have given me 52 minutes, which is really generous of you. I hope you have enjoyed this session too.
This is one of my best podcasts ever, to be honest, because you asked me to the point questions. The questions were so relevant, and I really enjoyed answering them. And I hope that same goes for the audience. Audience will also learn something from it. From the way you questioned me was actually the right way to question a guest. So I really like it. Thank you so much for giving me a chance to speak to you one to one.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nurasif Saab, for your precious time, so your precious appearance you have shown in empowering minds to empower our minds. And you really empowered my mind. And I really hope so that you have empowered my audience mind also. Thank you so much, Laura May Jones, that you have presented here. You commented on my podcast, and you appreciated Nurul Hasib Saab and me. Thank you so much. Thank you all the audience who have watched us live and who are going to watch us in the recorded session. Thank you so much, and thank you so much again, Nurul Hasib Saab. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to sign it off here. I hope you had an amazing time watching Empowering Minds. I'll see you next time with next guest. Keep doing amazing things. Allah Hafiz. Bye bye.